Time now for Focus, and today we have a report on Abu Dhabi's IDEX exhibition, which wraps up this Thursday. Hundreds of defence companies from around the world, including Boeing and Raytheon, showcasing their latest technology and military equipment. This exhibition taking place as efforts continue, of course, to wipe out the Islamic State group, and defence budgets are on the up. Gail Sunderlin and Vikram Singh report.
Abu Dhabi has overtaken Las Vegas, not as a gambling destination, but as home to the world's largest military exhibition. Every 2 years, the capital of the United Arab Emirates welcomes arms dealers and military delegations from around the globe.
Hello. Which country are you from?
We are from Tanzania.
Which army?
Jordan.
Poland.
Is it important for you to be here?
Absolutely. Not only for me, but also for my country. It's a great chance to meet a lot of people from different countries and exchange information. It's important.
Hello and welcome everyone.
Here, the traditional military parade has been replaced by a spectacular show with music, sound effects, and a plot reminiscent of an action movie. Armed forces must fight a terrorist group who have taken over a region. The scenario isn't too far removed from the real-world conflicts in Iraq, Syria, and Yemen, where the oil-rich monarchies of the Middle East are involved. A campaign of air raids eventually frees the country. The audience is thrilled. At least this story has a happy ending. The size of 15 football pitches, the exhibition showcases everything the global military industry has to offer. The rising stars are robots, drones, mine clearers, and other advanced infantry weapons.
Yes, they're easy to carry, and it can carry weapons or no?
So it can carry a disruptor.
The company's key selling point is their sniper robot's price tag, less than $500,000. That's half the cost of training an American soldier.
It carries a capability that actually allows us to maximize the efficiency of the weapon up to 1,400 meters. So we have thermal and IR cameras. We have a 60-time optical zoom.
Even though the robot is capable of shooting on its own, for the moment it's still controlled remotely by human beings.
So you would have to lift this up, you have to hold the button down, and then you have to go through an arming sequence and then a firing sequence. And security. Correct, that is. It's a security measure. You know. So, again, trying to give the warfighter a tool without giving him more things to do on the battlefield. So.
The American, Saudi, and Kuwaiti armies have already purchased this robot. But traditional weapons are still the most sought after, and the Russians are amongst their most aggressive promoters. They're not afraid to use their controversial intervention in Syria in order to showcase their equipment.
Su-30 SM two-seater multi-role fighters perform patrol escort missions in Syria, attacking militia positions.
But the biggest star of the exhibition can be found at the always crowded Kalashnikov booth. This year, the rifle will celebrate its 70th birthday, and it is aging extremely well.
The model, which is extremely reliable, very durable, works everywhere in all the conditions. It's our bestseller, which allows us to increase the profits. In the past 5 years, our sales increased by 8 times, which is a good result, I would say.
The company just announced the creation of 1,700 jobs to meet a surge in export orders. The global arms trade is booming. Deals worth $100 billion were signed last year, the highest figure since the fall of the Berlin Wall. And the Middle East represents a third of the global market, which explains the presence of all the major French industrial heavyweights here: Safran, Airbus, Thales, and Nexter, a leading French tank producer. A skiing accident didn't stop the company's CEO from making the trip. Negotiations with several countries in the region are ongoing for the sale of this tank.
France has 630 armored vehicles like this one, and some of them have been deployed here thanks to France's cooperation agreement with the Emirates.
Will you sell it to Qatar?
Well, I don't know yet, but I sure hope so.
The contracts are highly political. France's military industry has benefited from the current government's intense diplomatic efforts towards oil-rich Middle Eastern monarchies.
From 2010 to 2016, half of France's exports of ground force equipment were sent to the Middle East. This shows how important this region is for our industries.
Every evening, organizers proudly list the contracts announced during the day, which can often reach billions of dollars. Despite the oil price slump, the 2017 edition is on course to beat previous records.
Joining me now in the studio is Pierre Connaisse, a former senior official at the French Defence Ministry. Hello, thank you very much for coming in. I'd like to start off by talking in quite general terms. Which countries are the biggest arms sellers?
United States, of course. More than one-third of the total equipment sales in the world, and more than 50% of the defense budget all over the world, which means that the most important actor in that market is definitely the United States. And following by Russia and some countries, but we are very far from United States.
Is there one country to look out for in terms of the potential to really become a major player in this industry?
No, the market seems to be quite stable. I mean, the most interesting place, the most interesting thing probably is the place of Germany, which was completely different 10 years or 15 years ago, because at that time Germany was not an exporter, and now is at the same level than France, for example, without the same political support, which means that this market is as part a political one and also a technical one.
That's the thing. We heard in the report how some contracts are highly political. Would you say that as well as being a good businessman, you need to be a good diplomat to be able to sign a lucrative arms deal?
Well, the biggest importer, for example, of French equipment and probably also from American equipment is Saudi Arabia. And no one thinks that Saudi is a human rights country. And Saudi Arabia today is having a war, in Yemen. So no one has think about an embargo regarding Saudi Arabia, which means that, the importance of that market make political aspect completely different.
Didn't the US limit the delivery of certain types of missiles in protest at what they said was the targeting of civilians in Yemen?
No, they probably limit their exportation regarding the Israel security first. For Yemen, it's the second aspect of the question. It's not very important. Probably America is delivering, some very sensitive information and evidence of the targets that the Saudis Air Force is targeting, which means that probably the role of the United States in that war, is very ambiguous.
Now, you mentioned France, Germany. Obviously, European defense spending isn't anything like it is in the US. And we've had the US recently encourage Europe or say that NATO allies need to spend more on their defense budget. A lot of them don't meet the requirement of 2% of GDP. Do you think, what can we expect? Do you think that they will have to step up?
That's a different question of export armament. The United States is asking European countries to increase their defense spending, which is normal because, as you know, we are every country of European Union is lower than 2% of the gross national budget. That's not enough. But as you know, we are facing crisis, which means that it's very difficult for today, for example, even for France, to increase significantly its defense budget. So probably the United States is right. We need European defense, but we are not able to increase significantly and to implement a real defense system.
Now, this is a bit sensitive, but would you say that the election of Donald Trump is good for the arms industry in the sense that his inexperience and some of the statements he makes, for example, regarding China and the one China policy, so China and Taiwan, makes some leaders jittery? Does it make them also then stuck up on weapons? Is it good for the arms industry?
I don't know if Trump is really different of Obama regarding the support of arms export of United States. No, what I would say is that Trump is a very big producer of enemies which means that suddenly, as soon as he was elected, he decided that Iran was a new threat. Why? I don't understand, because we have just signed, the agreement on nuclear aspect. So he designed, some country which he would like enemies. So he's disturbing the national security systems in the Middle East. That's a very important aspect of his diplomacy. For example, he said nothing about the Yemen war. He said a lot about Daesh, but in fact, in that region, in the Middle East, we have 2 or 3 or 4 wars simultaneously, which means that he's designing who is the most important and who is, he will keep blind eyes regarding, for example, Saudi Arabia war in Yemen.
I guess we'll have to wait and see then how things develop. Thank you very much, Pierre Conessa.